Hey, welcome back to the Love How Deep podcast. We're so glad that you have joined us, and we have got some very special guests today. They are friends of ours. We'd like to welcome JD and Shannon West to the program. Hey, guys, how are you?
Doing
Hey,
good.
how are y'all?
How are y'all doing?
We're
Awesome.
good.
We're
We're good.
great. Yeah, we're great. We're really excited about this, which is what I always say, but we're extra
He
excited
really means it this time.
because you're friends. And so,
Listen, you say that to all your guests, Brian.
But this time he means it.
yeah. But I think the reason that we like this discussion, especially, is it's going to be all about blended families. And so Heather and I have some experience in this as well, but we're really looking forward to learning from you as you both of you talk about your story. I think it's going to really help everyone that's watching and listening. And I think it's probably going to help Heather and I too. Yeah.
I think so.
Thank you for having us. We're
Yeah.
we're excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to the conversation for sure.
Yeah. And before we jump in, I just want to make sure everybody listening and watching, make sure you like, follow, subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this. It will really help you get all the great content immediately, and it'll help us spread the message. And with that, JD and Shannon, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
You want to get
All
that
right.
started, babe?
Sure. Before we get started,
Oh boy.
just to share, so Shannon and I knew each other a while ago before we even got married, before we even started dating. And so here's a picture of us in the eighth grade.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
You see that? That
That's
was the eighth grade. So we knew each other prior, but there was no in the dating scene yet until we met later on in life. Just to begin the conversation, of blended families. I had my first child at 19 years old out of wedlock, and so I had to grow up real fast. So there was a lot of responsibility, but a 19-year-old wouldn't know everything about being a parent in the first place. So I had a lot of support around me.
oh,
I
that's
had a
good.
lot of parents and on both sides that helped me out during that time, and I had to learn a lot. I had to grow up a lot, and then I got married when I was 22, I believe, to my first wife, and then we had our daughter, Cameron, who is 21 now. I'm sorry, Zach was 26 now. My daughter is 21, Cameron. And so that marriage only lasted for 2.5 years. It was a very rough time for me. And so when that ended, I took some time to myself. And it was a couple of years before I got back into the dating scene again. And then that's when I found Shannon. And so we connected, and let me say 2007, right? Yes.
Yes.
2007 is when I met Shannon. We began our dating journey. We dated for 2 years and then engaged for 1 year. It was a total of 3 years before we got married in 2010. And so we got married on August 28th, 2010.
So we're
And
approaching 15 years now.
that's right.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
So something's working, sounds like.
Sounds like it for sure.
Something.
Sounds like you went down into a little bit of a pit for a while because of
I
everything
did.
that had gone on and happened. And
Yeah, I made it wasn't, nothing's an accident. So I went through this for a purpose. And I believe that God helped me go. I did make bad decisions, but it was for a reason. And so it helped me learn to grow. It helped me to be the man I am today. It helped me to be disciplined in my work ethic, to provide for my family. No matter what happened, I believe I went through that for a reason. And so that's why I'm here today.
mm,
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
that's awesome. I like it when we go through something and we're able to look back and see that path and see how God worked everything out that could have been so awful. And if look what you have now, that's a beautiful thing. And the fact that you learned something from it, your perspective is different. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then so when we got together a couple of years into our marriage, how many years?
What,
How long was it before we had Nate?
two?
2 years.
I think. Yes.
So now we have 3 children. So Nate
Yeah.
is 12 now. So that's a total of three, two for me and one for her. But altogether it's three.
That's
yeah.
good.
And our journey is still ongoing, and it's never been better. So it was a long road, but it was definitely God sent.
Mm,
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely not always easy. You guys know,
Right.
having a blended family, and it's not always rainbows and butterflies. You find a way to make it work.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's just what we've done always we have two mothers as well. It was added a little different, especially when was two different, because no one parents the same, right? You have very different parenting styles. And so that was, yeah,
Different, everything's different.
yeah. But and thankfully, I think we can say that we've always had a pretty good relationship with their moms. It hasn't always been, and again, not always rainbows and butterflies. It hasn't always been easy or perfect, but I actually just had this conversation with his ex-wife a couple of weeks ago, just how grateful I am that we've been able to co-parent all these years. And we're grateful for each other. She's grateful that her daughter has another set of parents that love her unconditionally. And she's always expressed that. And I'm grateful that we've been able to co-parent, even though it's different, but we've always had the same end goal and the same purpose, and that was to love her. And same with Zachary too. We've always just been very blessed in that area that we've been able to get along well. And
Yeah, and so some of those divorces where you hear about the arguing and the bickering and the child support and the lawyers and the court system, and luckily, not luckily, sorry, thankful that God's favor was in my court, that I didn't have to go through any kind of child support. Everything was worked out outside of courts, mediated between me and the mothers, and we never had to deal with money issues or anything. So everything was worked out outside of court. So that was when I hear stories, horror stories from those that are going through it now and those that have been through it, it is really it's disheartening to hear what some fathers had to go through, what some mothers had to go through. It's just, it really is sad. And I just don't know how, people get through what they're going through if they don't have Jesus in their life. It's really hard. And so that's our main mission. We have a heart for those who are going through what we went through or going through now. And we just want to come alongside them, just like you guys are, and provide support, provide content like this for other couples to go through, to help them go through things like this.
That's such a blessing that, yeah, like you said, you didn't have to go through all of that.
Yeah.
Because you're right. That's the stories we hear a lot, are just the arguing and the bickering and just the anger and the rage. And because
And the
it's already
kids are
hard enough.
Yeah. And the kids are in the middle of it too. And it's sad.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly
I
right.
mean, seriously, divorce isn't easy, no matter which way you slice it. To be able to go through one, and I'm speaking probably for him because I came into the marriage. I'd never been married before. So this is my first and only marriage. But for him, and just looking back on his experience and just talking to him and knowing what he went through and his ex-wife went through, knowing her too, I'm very impressed. Like we just had this conversation, he and I'm just so impressed with as young as they were too, because they were young at the time and obviously had their issues and had problems, but hence the divorce, but they were able to do it in a very mature way and in a way that they both knew was best for their daughter. And that's just so impressive to me that they were able to do that during that time.
Yeah. Did that kind of attract you, Shannon, to be like, wow, this guy, okay, he's been through all this stuff and somehow he's handling it pretty well, or
He's got it together.
He did. And yeah, and two, he was such a stand-up dad. His son lived with him. So that was also like, okay, like this guy, and again, because I knew him when we were younger. So I knew, and he could say this about me too, when we were a little younger and a little wilder or whatever. But to see the man that he ended up growing up to be all these years later when we reconnected, I'm going to show our age on MySpace. Uh, and just to see how he had matured and how he had grown into such a wonderful man and dad, for sure, that was very attractive. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so good. So what would you say? We'd like to think everything has gone swimmingly and perfect, but I guess what would be the biggest hurdle, either maybe when you started the journey or anywhere along the journey, would you say with
Yeah.
blending?
Yeah, I think for me, and again, I'm probably speaking for you too, I don't know. Because I had never been married before, I didn't have any children either coming into the marriage. I'd never lived with anybody. On August 28th, 2010, I became instant wife, instant parent, a stepmom, hate to say the word roommate because we're obviously not roommates, but it was my first time living with anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm also living with his children too. So where other couples, the more people are doing it, the more traditional way, they have time to ease into the parenting role. Whereas, and Heather, I know you can relate,
Mm-hmm.
I did not have time to ease into it. It was like a slingshot right into it.
Yeah.
So that was a big adjustment. And I
Yeah.
don't think that I ever appreciated the fact of how much of an adjustment it was going to be, because I loved the kids from day one. I was very much in love with him very early on. I was just like, oh, yay, it's going to be such a great adventure. And it has been, but it's been tough too. So I think that was the biggest adjustment for me, was just trying to navigate learning how to be a wife and a parent and cohabitating with someone and sharing my space and my life and
Mm-hmm.
everyday things.
It's almost like you got dropped into another planet or something. Like you're probably like,
I
what?
guess,
I don't know if you
yeah.
felt that way, Heather, but
A little bit, yeah. I moved into his house, and so
Mhm.
there was being a wife and being a mother and
Mhm.
being with him and sharing his. I felt like it was all his space, and I was just there. And I don't know. There was sometimes feelings of I'm in the way or this. I don't know. It was just
Right.
it is very weird.
yeah,
Right.
It
Like,
is
where do
weird.
I fit into this?
Yeah,
Where and
yeah,
how do I fit
right.
into this?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's JD's world and Shannon needs to figure out how to fit into it. No,
That's
I'm
right.
not saying that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That's right. That's
No, I
right.
know it's an equal thing, but probably in the beginning, it probably felt a little bit like that, I'm sure.
right.
So,
Yeah. What would you say, anything different in terms of hurdles or like adjustments?
Just being a dad and bringing you in to the situation, but just learning to juggle everybody's emotions and feelings, the communication between you and the mothers and the introductions and this is how it's going to be, this is what it is now. And that was just the biggest adjustment is to, and then with the kids as well, is this is going to be your stepmom now. We're a team and you need to respect her and to make sure that if she tells you to do something, you need to do it. And so that's
Mhm.
the kind of emotions and the adjustments that I think was the biggest ones starting out.
Because that's tough for the kids too, right? Having
Oh,
this
yeah.
woman come in and
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough for them too.
having
So
to spread the attention with everybody,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
do you feel like you realize there was a point where you feel like you made it over that hurdle, or were you faced with that hurdle again and again over the past 15 years because of the children's ages and stages in life? Does that make sense?
It
Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
yeah, there's been a lot of hurdles. And you said different stages of life.
Yes.
And as y'all know, as being a parent, you have an adult child as well. So y'all know the different stages of life brings a very different challenges.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's still on. We still have challenges and hurdles to jump. Just they may be adults now, but there's still hurdles to jump over. Can't Our daughter, she's getting ready to graduate college, and so that's exciting. But
That is
there's
exciting.
always, yeah, we're still jumping them
Yeah.
here and
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
for sure. I think it looks different now as adults, though, with co-parenting, because the co-parenting part is, I don't want to say done because we all still parent, but we don't, I think that we used to see and talk with the oldest mom quite often. And he's 26 now, he's engaged, and we have a grandbaby. They have a child together. He's 2. So really the only time we see mom is at the grandbabies, when our shared grandbaby is birthday party or event there. Um, so it's just different now. I think obviously it has to. Life looks different as your kids get older, and just brings different seasons and different challenges. But yeah,
Yeah. One question I had, I'm going maybe a little bit off script here, but I was just curious for you, JD, was it when you entered into this relationship with Shannon, were you fearful at all of, oh boy, it didn't work out with these other two? And is this going to happen to me again? Or was it like immediately, nope, I found my soulmate and
mm, good question. Yeah, JD. I'm just kidding. I know the answer to this
I
already.
think I knew I found my soulmate, but
oh,
hence the 3 years before we got married, the 2 year courting period, and then the extra engagement period.
Courting.
Yeah.
You did. It sounds
It's for
old school.
80. It's fine.
Hey, no, I knew I found her. We knew pretty much, off the bat after our couple of dates. But I still wanted to make sure. I tell her every day. I wanted to make sure that we did everything the right way, and she was on board with that. We didn't live together before we got married. We wanted to honor Jesus. And it's not a bad thing that other people
Yeah.
do it the way they do it, but we just felt in our hearts that's what we needed to do to make this work. And so that's how we approached it.
And two, for the
Yeah.
kids too, like that, you don't
Yeah.
want that confusion. We did not want that confusion for the kids
Yeah.
either until it was a solid done deal. Because God forbid if they had a woman in their life that they saw as a parental figure and then
Something
it
happened.
didn't work. Yeah, and I knew very early on. I remember telling my best friend, like a month in, like that's the guy I'm gonna marry. I
Oh,
knew very
She
early.
didn't let me know that.
No, not crazy. Hey, yo, we're getting married. Yeah, that's a good way to send the guy running for the hills, right? Yeah, so I knew very early, but I think, and I knew when you go into a relationship, again, Heather, I'm sure that you can relate to this as well, with somebody who's been through a divorce, who has kids, and especially in the unique situation for him where it's with two children, two different moms. He had to know that he knew that I was the one before he could bring me into that. I knew and respected that and never pressured him. I don't think I never pressured him to make that next step or make it official. That was just something that I had to respect, even though I was all in a month in. So
That's so
And
good.
you
Like
know,
you said, JD, it's like Jesus, it's God. It's to have the two of you feel that way about each other and just to know that has to be God, right? Yeah.
and I
That's
was
so
just going
good.
to add on to the end of that was we even discussed if we were going to have any children when we got together because I already had two, and she was very adamant she wanted her own, and so I had to make sure I was on board with that. And sometimes you hear these stories and people get married and then all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't want any kids, and the other person's, I thought you wanted kids. That's a very important part of when you're dating is to make sure that you're on the same page, and so we were on the same page.
yeah.
Um,
And that was a
that's good.
conversation we had to have early on, even like before we got super serious, because I think we were 27 when we started dating. I needed to know, hey, listen, are you willing to have any other child? Because
yeah.
if not, then I'm not going to waste your time or mine. And at that point, he said, with the right person, I could agree to maybe one more kid. And that was a sacrifice on my end because I wanted at least two of my own. And in hindsight, it wasn't a sacrifice at all. I have two wonderful bonus children and we have one amazing child together. It feels like zero sacrifice. But in the moment, when you're 27 and you think that how your life is going to go or how you planned it your entire life, and
Mhm.
it's skewed a little bit. But that was definitely a conversation we had. And he was open to it. And I was surprised because I remember being a little nervous, like approaching that conversation. I don't want to scare this guy off, but I need to know what
Right.
this looks like. Because I had actually just ended a relationship before because the guy was like a year and a half in. I don't know if I want kids. Okay, that's a deal breaker for me. You just needed to know.
Mm.
I think that's so important that you bring that up because if any of our listeners are in the dating phase and they're looking at it, it could potentially be a blended family. If they get married, they need to have that conversation. Are we
Mhm.
having more kids that are ours together? And what
Yeah,
would that look like? So I think that's really good advice that you're sharing there to do that and also to bring up not sacrifice but compromise. It may not
yeah,
be the four children that we thought we were going to have. Maybe it's just the
yeah.
one, but it's
Mhm.
there's always compromise in every relationship. And so for y'all, that's what it ended up being, just the one. And you're like, you know what? That's good. That's
Yep,
good because I have the one. When you
that's
look at
right.
all three together, that's your blessing right there. So I like
100%.
that you bring that up and look at it that way.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Good. I guess that leads us into our next question about what is it? What is the best thing about having this blended family? Like, what's the most positive, I guess, thing that's come out of all of this?
Yeah, I would say for me, what I love the most about it is seeing the relationship that our son has with his older brother and sister. And there's a pretty big age difference. Our oldest was 14 when he was born, and our daughter was 9 when he was born. So it's a pretty big age difference. But he adores them. He loves them and they love him. And being an uncle, he was a 10-year-old uncle. So I'm like, that's your fun fact whenever you have to give a fun fact at school or something. But seeing the relationship that he has with his older siblings has been really special, especially with Cam because, and I only say with her because she lives with us, right? The oldest one, he's grown, has his own family. We still see them. We get together with them once a month for family dinner, and that's great. But he's super close with his sister. And I think in their relationship just warms my heart how much they love each other. Like her with him with her. They truly just have the best and sweetest relationship. And I just, for me, that's what warms my heart. And they never say, like, oh, it's my half sibling or we have different, it's just my brother, my sister. So that's been,
I love
Wow.
that.
and
I
it
was wondering.
also,
Oh, yep.
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, I was going to say it also helps being like instant parent, like helps me a little bit, I think, in a way when we had our own child. Because I was able, because I'd been through certain seasons with the older two that I probably wouldn't have had an insight with where Nate was, where our youngest was concerned.
Hmm.
How about you? Anything that?
We'll see what Brian
Oh,
has to say.
yeah.
You know what? I think I forgot what I was going to ask. I was so just engrossed in what you were saying, Shannon. I'm not sure where I was. Oh, wait. Oh, I was going to ask you, did she take on like a motherly role with Nate a little bit or no? Was it?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely like second mom.
If you want to get into it,
Yeah.
she's like that with her mom's kids as well. So
Mhm.
she's
Okay.
she has a very caring
Mhm.
and passion about being there for her siblings. And so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
She
Wow.
has a younger sister and two younger brothers on her mom, twin brothers on her mom's side. So she's always been the oldest of the four of them, and she's just like little mother hen and has always taken on that role. And I remember I've told her this, we just had this conversation a few months ago. I remember when I had Nate, we came home from the hospital the day after Thanksgiving and we had the kids that weekend. So it was like instant. I bring this newborn home. We had his kids that weekend. And I was so upset when Cam had to go back home because she was literally like my little assistant, like my little right hand man. Like she was doing so much and helpful, so
That's awesome.
helpful. That's just her heart. She loves to
Wow.
help. That's her love language is acts of service. And like I was actually upset. I'm like, oh man, does she have to go? She's just so helpful. And she's still like that. Like she really takes on that mother hen type of role
Mm.
with all of her siblings.
That's so good because we hear quite often that when kids are really little and they blend, they can usually blend a little bit easier. I often hear a lot of times when the kids are older, there's a lot more animosity, a lot more upset, and they don't really click as
Mhm.
much with the kids on the other side. So that's just, I hope that gives people hope to know that it can happen, even when they're the age range is that far apart.
Yeah, for sure. And even our oldest, he's got siblings on his mom's side too that he's really close with. Yeah, there was none of, I don't really think ever for either one of them, any kind of, that's just life. But I think too, they were also so young, everything, because our oldest, when his mom remarried and had children, he was very young because he was 9 when we started dating. And Cam was 3 when we started dating, just getting ready to turn 4. So, I mean, for them, this is not saying it hasn't been hard for them because that's a lot of parental roles in your life and a lot of different ways of parenting coming at you. But it's just really all they've known, I think.
True.
Yeah.
Heather and I always like to know, how do you two stay connected? You want to go there with this question? Yeah, like how have you figured out how to stay connected to each other to make sure your marriage is important and you're a priority? Because I know it can't be easy with 3 kids.
That's a great question. And that's really something we need to do better about. Like and especially now that Nate, our youngest, is old enough to hang by himself for a little bit, we do need to get better about date nights. I know you guys have always been really good about that. Y'all
Yeah.
really prioritize your date nights. And I'm sure even when your daughter was younger, y'all were really good about that. What are you laughing at?
no, it's smiling.
Laughing because I'm calling us out because we need date night.
No, this is real.
Yeah.
We're being real. This is real talk right
Yeah,
here.
this is real talk. Yeah, we need to do better about that. And we actually, with our 15-year anniversary coming up, have talked about maybe doing something where it's away because we have not done something away, just he and I, in forever. So that's something that we've talked about. And I think that for us, it's in I don't want to, we're not in the light of the day. And by that, when it's just the two of us and we can wind down after our youngest is to bed, that's when we can connect. Like we can watch, our thing is stand-up comedy. That's just what we like to watch. So we'll throw on some stand-up comedy and just unwind together. And then it's just our time. But we do need to step up in the date and vacation, date nights and vacation, just the two of us. How did y'all do that?
So we probably need to let you in on a little secret that it was a little bit easier than probably what it appeared. Do you want to explain how that?
Oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
We need y'all's secrets. Help us.
Secret stuff.
We were empty nesters every summer. That
Yeah.
helped because she
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
go to Ohio to be with her mom. So we had all summer, but we also she would go spend the night with her friend and he and I would have a date night and
Yeah.
then we would return the favor. A friend would come stay with us and they would get to go on a date night and that sort of thing. But I think things like that helped and just, I don't know, going for walks. And we would invite her, you want to go for a walk with us? And if she didn't want to, it was just he and I. So we would get to go.
Yeah, when she got older, she wanted nothing to do with that. So we're like,
Yeah.
okay,
So we
we'll
would
see you
go
later. We'll be
30
back in an
minutes.
Relatable.
hour.
30 minutes just to talk and walk. And like when we lived in Florida, she was in Girl Scouts. And so we would drive her to Girl Scouts, which was like 20 minutes from the house, but there was a Starbucks down the road. So we'd go get a coffee and then we would go walk around, just take a walk around the neighborhood, drink our coffee, and then go pick her up.
That's
It's a
great.
date night, but it's
Yeah.
not extravagant. It
No.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be. It's whatever you can do to connect and talk. And is that
Yeah.
what you were thinking, Brian, or did you have something else in mind?
No, that was pretty much
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
I
People
just
say
wanted
we
to let
messy.
people know we weren't perfect. Like I
No.
said, we had a little bit of a
Yeah,
better time about having a little bit more
that's
time than
true.
the average couple
That's true.
Mhm.
probably does.
We would send her to my parents because they lived across town when we lived in
Yeah.
Florida. So just things like that. But we just knew, I think, how important it was for us to stay connected,
Right.
however that could
Mm.
look, because of our past and stuff that we'd been through. It's like we came into this and we knew it needed to be different. And we knew what we didn't like. And it's like, all right, we don't want that to be repeated. It has to be different. And I think it's important for anybody getting married a second time to really know what didn't work and maybe why, and then
Yeah.
take initiative for it to be different. And I think to find ways to stay connected. Would tell people that we mentored and counseled, like when you get home, both get home from work, send all the kids to their room. And then the two of you sit on the couch for 15 minutes and you debrief about your day and you
Mm.
debrief about what's going on that night or anything that happened that made you an emotional wreck or whatever it is. But you get that
Mhm.
time together and then it's okay. We've had some
Mhm.
time to just share and talk. Now let's hit the ground running and go fix dinner. Just
Yeah.
things like that. So there's a tip for you.
There you go.
Mhm.
That's a good one. And what's crazy is I feel like we were probably better about this when Nate was younger because my parents live right down the street and they always willing and ready. Give me that baby.
Yeah.
They did keep him a lot when he was younger. I think now it's just a different season because he's so busy and
Hmm.
he's 12, so he still needs us to drive him everywhere. And we're
Yeah.
so involved in his athletics and his sports and the things that he does. And he's gotten really involved in the youth group at church and things of that nature. Those are really good tips. I will say we do take some walks and when we walk the dog, and that's our time to have conversations about the future. And we
We
talk,
laugh together.
yeah, we talk a lot about where are we going to retire and yeah, what beach are we going to retire at? Like,
I love it.
we need to start traveling and figure out where we're going to do that at.
I love it. It's good
Yeah,
to have plan those like pipe dreams together. And no matter how outlandish they are, you're just dreaming and you're just talking and it's what if. And
mhm,
those are always good things to talk about.
yeah. Or what's the next project we can do at the house or
Yeah. You ready for the
his
next one,
favorite topic?
Brian?
Mhm.
Yeah, we do that too. He has it on an Excel spreadsheet because that's him. He lives in a
Gosh,
little box.
I like share a
Everything's in
brain.
a box. I know. They're
Organized.
men.
What's wrong with
They are
that?
men.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Yeah. So I've got a next project for us, Brian, because as I see their background and see their board and batten behind them,
No,
I
yeah.
want to do that on the other side of So we did it a couple summers ago in our entryway right there. And I'm like, I want to do that on the dining room wall. That's also this pretty blue color. I want to do it there. So next
See,
summer, Ryan.
All right.
He's like, no,
put that
we're
on the
taking you on
honey-do list,
vacation.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Don't
So,
take over the conversation.
so we're going to do
Back to
that.
them.
Talking about drinking together, making
Yeah,
plans
We're
I
dreaming.
together.
know.
Yeah, we
Well,
might
we
add
are
a brick
getting,
wall because of y'all's influence. Hey, you never know.
So let me ask you this. How has your faith in God played a role in your marriage and in your family life and being blended, but being one family?
Yeah, I think the standard Christian thing to say would be like, yeah, we have to put God first in everything, and a lot of prayer and walking with Jesus. Like, that's the only way you can get through these things. But that's life. That's
Yeah.
above and beyond just being a blended family or husband and wife. That's just kind of life in itself.
Mhm.
A lot of prayer, especially before big conversations with the kids or things like that. We have always tried to. I feel like when you have God, and I know that you guys can relate to this too, when you have God at the center of your marriage,
Mhm.
it's not always easily trickled down into every other aspect, but it's easier to be able to rely on Him in the tough times and the joyful times and giving Him glory for it. That's just always been something that from the get go, we have said that we are going to have a Christ centered marriage. And then hopefully, with obviously hard work and prayer, everything else just falls into place. We pray with each other every morning before we leave the house. That's just something that we've always
Mm,
done.
that's
And that just helps sets the tone for the day too. Even when we don't feel like it, even if we're
yeah,
mad at each other, some prayers are a lot quicker than others
right.
after an argument. Uh,
So
but
I
yeah,
wanted to, oh, I'm sorry,
no,
Shannon.
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say real quick to you, JD. Yeah, I guess you've been talking, Shannon. You two definitely. I know you're not perfect, like we all aren't, but you definitely, I think, walk the walk. And I'll never forget one thing you said to me. You were working with a couple, and they took. I think it was the husband took a really hard line on the wife being submissive to the husband, and you were no, that's not what that means. That this is the person you love, and anytime I make a big decision with my wife we are going to talk it over and we are going to figure out a way how do we get on the same page, and if we're not on the same page then this is probably not, this decision can't move forward. And I just always appreciated that about you. I don't know if you remember saying that or remember mentioning that with that couple that you
Me
worked
too.
with, but
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes
Yeah.
I forget a lot of things, but yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a hard conversation. It was good.
Yeah, I would definitely, a husband and wife need to work together. They need to be, locking, I don't know how you say it, I forgot what it was, locking stuff. But yeah, we've all heard preachers talk about husbands being submissive, wives being submissive to their husbands, but the husbands, they need to be with their wives as well. And you just can't take that out of context. I don't think God meant for it to be out of context like that either. We're to be leaders of the home, but if our wives also have a spirit of holiness as well, the Holy Spirit is with them as well, and they can help guide us in making decisions and being a part of the family and help us lead our families together. And I truly believe in that. And I don't think any marriage should be one way, and it can't work like that.
Yeah. And I truly want him to be the spiritual leader of the home. I don't want that responsibility, right? I want him to be the leader of our home. But with that, there's also a partnership too. This is not he makes the decisions and that's the end all be all. It's always a conversation. We don't make big decisions or a lot of decisions without discussing it with each other first. It's not,
good.
yeah. And I think that's just how it's supposed to be. That's how it should be. And in a healthy way, I think.
We
I mean,
both
we're not
bring perspective to the table, and
right.
when you talk through that, then you can come to an agreement on how to handle things. That's how I believe in it. So
Yeah.
Mm.
good
Yeah.
stuff, good stuff. So I know we're getting a little bit low on time. Should we work on, we got one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the only thing we have left is really, is there anything that either you would have done differently that you look back now, or is it something that you might share with a couple listening or watching that could be helpful? Either one of those or both.
Yeah. Anything? Just one thing? There's a lot of things.
We ain't got time for that.
And
No,
I'll just ramble. He's trying to rein me in. I think for me, and JD, you might have a different perspective on this, I don't know, but I think for me, he gave me so much, even very early on when we were dating. He gave me, I don't want to say free reign or agency with the kids and helping him parent, but I think and I remember in the moment thinking, wow, he must really, like before we started being super serious with each other and talking about the future, I remember thinking, like, he must really see a future here because he's allowing me to take part in this way. But with that, I think I came in a little too hot as the step parent and as the woman coming in. And I wish that I would have taken a beat and just eased into it a little bit more, especially for the sake of the kids. And I think because I'm a very different parent, and I think that was probably pretty confusing for them, a little bit of a tailspin of what's going on. It's completely different parenting styles over here. And I feel like I led a little bit of that. And even now to this day, like I sometimes check myself and think, okay, there are times where he does, as the man and the parent, the bio parent and the father need to probably lead on the situation. And I could be a supportive partner to him as opposed to me just coming in hot and speaking on it. Because you guys know me, and probably even through this podcast can tell, I'm just going to take over a conversation. And I'm just more conversive than he is. That's just our personalities. But I do wish that early on I would have just not come in so hot with the parenting and rules and things like that, and expectations that probably they were not ready. I think my expectations were high, and that wasn't fair. Just looking back in hindsight, and I have a great relationship with the kids. There were some struggles there early on, and I think that's probably part of why, because I just came in blazing as a parent. All of a sudden, this woman's here telling us what to do and taking part of the punishments or whatever. By punishments, like grounding or what have you. I think that's the main thing that I would do differently with our blended family. What about you?
I think being more prepared to handle the emotions of her coming in and with the kids, giving her respect, for them to understand that we will be a team together and that you should honor our marriage first and you should honor our decision making. No matter, what I've done in the past, now we're together and we're going to make decisions together and we're going to do things this way now. And so just being more prepared and being able to handle some of those emotions between all the mothers and all the kids. That I don't think anybody can be prepared, but not you're asking what could we have done differently, and if I could have known back then what I know now, that could help out a whole lot more and than causing ourselves more stress and heartache during the process. So
Yeah.
That's
I know
good.
we've had conversations with friends that are blended families, and I've always thought it was strange because they'll be like, yeah, I handle my kid, he handles his kid. That's how they just parent. And I've always thought that was so odd, but I get it. I do. But for us, that just wasn't going to work. And I think that's probably just more my personality than anything. Um,
no,
Yeah.
well, I don't agree with that. I think parents should, parent all their kids together as a
Yeah.
team. God says you join the union is one, and so it's God, the marriage, the kids, and then the rest of the family. So you put God first, like you said, it'll trickle down into every area of your life.
but there's
Right.
got to be a healthy balance with that too. And I think oftentimes just my personality and my need to, I don't want to say control the narrative, that's maybe a little harsh, but the need maybe to make myself heard and have conversations and talk things out. I probably did a disservice a little bit. I would just encourage people who are going into a blended family situation. One, like you said, have the conversations, communicate early on about what the expectation is that you guys have as a married couple, but also clearly communicate that to the kids in an age appropriate way. And then just ease into it. Don't come in guns a-blazing. Just let it happen naturally and organically.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love really what both of you have said. You could almost blend those answers into one just awesome answer where you start out slow and you ease your way into it, but then once you feel like you've entered into that highway and you're going 80 miles an hour, now you both need to be traveling at the same speed and working together and
Mhm.
parenting the kids together and as much as you can. Yeah.
Right.
I I really love both of those answers.
That's
So,
good.
and I
Thank
think
you.
with, yeah, and I think with that, I think this has been awesome.
It's
I've
been
really
good.
enjoyed this. I hope everybody watching and listening has learned a lot, and I know we've definitely learned a lot. And you know, it wasn't easy for us either. I would say parenting probably was our number one challenge,
It was.
and so, but somehow we made it as well. We made it through the chaos
Yeah,
of the blended family, but we
you guys
just
did. And we're grateful for y'all too. Along the
yeah,
way, we've had some conversations regarding these things because parenting isn't for the weak by any means.
Oh, it
So
isn't.
I know Heather and I have connected on that as step parenting or being a bonus parent. I don't like the word
Mhm.
stepmom. It just sounds harsh for me, but being a bonus mom, that just comes with different challenges. And I've appreciated over the years the relationship and friendship we have with you guys who've also been there, done that, and can give us advice and we can glean from y'all as well.
yeah,
So we appreciate y'all. We love you. We
yeah.
appreciate you and
Oh,
Thank
appreciate
you.
all that you're doing.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you too so
Yeah.
much. Anything you need to add before we wrap it up?
No,
Oh,
just excited that we could have y'all on to talk and
yeah.
about this blended family thing. I think anybody that's a blended family probably feels a lot of the same things that we have felt. So hopefully
Yeah.
they can find some encouragement from everything that's been
Mhm.
I
shared.
hope so. Y'all aren't alone.
No,
That's
they're
right.
not
You're not
alone.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if
Well,
you're
thank you.
watching, yeah, thank you. And if you're watching and listening, make sure you share this episode with a friend that might be in a blended family situation that might be struggling, and hopefully they can get something out of it. But thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, take care.